we get word that China announces 84% tariff on U.S. goods in showdown with Trump, okay? And Europe also hits back. You'll obviously give a little bit more intel on this.
Breaking news, and this is huge. Donald Trump just slapped a 125% tariff, and China's markets are going crazy. China is trying to hit back, and the media is panicking and spreading propaganda. But here is the real question. What's actually happening?
This has Europe in here as well.
If you can go a little bit lower, let's see what Europe's is. Europe Union announced it would begin collecting retaliatory duties on U.S. imports starting Tuesday. Okay. All right. And that's fine. So now if you go back to Trump's tweet, here's what Trump puts on Truth Social. And this is as of 2.5 hours ago, 3 hours ago. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I am hereby raising the tariff charge to China by U.S. to 125% effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the U.S. and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the U.S., including Department of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, and currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the U.S., I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. He posts this. Immediately, the market, Rob, if you can go to the market responds accordingly. Go to the 1 day. The 1 day ends up being 3,000. That was up 3,000, nearly 8% in a single day, right after the announcement is made. You can tell that, Rob, if you can do that again, that was great. He makes the announcement there at 37,941. Boom. The rest of the day ends up being nearly 3,000 today. So for you, with this back and forth, this is your world. This is what you do as an economist and somebody that's watched the quantitative easing, and now we're doing a little bit of quantitative tightening that's going on. We'll show that as well. What do you think is going on here? Is this good news? Is this over with? Is China going to come to the table? What do you think?
Right after Trump posted on Truth Social, boom, the Dow exploded, up nearly 3,000 points in a single day. That's an 8% spike in one trading session. You don't get that kind of surge unless Wall Street sees leverage, clarity, and strength. They saw Trump's strategy working, and the market reacted accordingly. Can China take the hit, or will they fold?
Well, the question is for who? Good news for who or bad news for who? Certainly the markets take the viewpoint, that this is good for most of the countries. So stock markets are up not only in the US, but also in Europe and any market that's open. And actually you wonder, because really what's happened is President Trump, who previously had this longest list of countries, that were faced with these new tariffs and partly extremely high tariffs in one go, the longest ever, I think, has been announced in one go. Mm-hmm. But they're now gone. It's all back to a minimum of 10%. Some were at 10%. The UK was 10%. And which one is left over? China. So you're really now pinpointing, zooming in on China. And clearly, China is the target now. The question is, was this now caving in to the market pressure? Because there's been relentless selling last week, relentless also Monday, Tuesday. And, that really created a lot of pressure. At Treasury, they were quite concerned. And there were some voices at Treasury saying, and actually, there was this announcement, I think it was on Monday, that there will be a 90-day reprieve, which was then denied by the White House. Said, no, that's not true. That's a rumor. You see, so clearly it's being proposed by somebody, perhaps from Treasury. Why don't we do this? And now it's become policy. Well, we can't know. We can only guess and speculate exactly how it came about. But the result is clear. Trump has made a major statement, last week on this Liberation Day, on these tariffs, and certainly woke up the whole world. Like, they're paying attention to what he's saying and what the US is doing, that's for sure. So he clearly got that attention. And as he said in his tweet and his message on Truth Central, so many countries have got in touch with the US and they're saying, hey, let's make a deal. That's, of course, what he wants. So in that sense, you could say, well, it's worked. They're all crawling back to the US saying, oh, yeah, okay, we realize we did have some tariffs on you guys and you wanted to have a level playing field, so fair enough, let's come to a deal. And in many ways, that was clearly the goal. Of course, you need to get those deals worked through and signed and, done and dusted, so we're not there yet. But he's got the reaction. They know he can be very serious. And if they don't negotiate properly, it will become serious again. There's no doubt. So in many ways, and I think that was in favor of this idea that, hey, let's have a reprieve because you've got everyone's attention. They want to negotiate. Negotiations can be tricky, can take a bit of a while. So why don't we have this reprieve? And I can imagine when somebody suggested that, perhaps from Treasury, I'm speculating here, but I'm sure President Trump's response was, but not China, surely. We can't let China off the hook. I'm not going to let China off the hook.
China can retaliate all they want. They can throw up tariffs, block exports, whatever. But here's the truth. The U.S. is the number one market in the world. Everybody wants access to the American consumers. And Trump knows that. He's not bluffing. He's calling China's bluff. So now we ask the real question. Who blinks first? Who needs who more? Who has the leverage and who's running out of time? China's strong, no doubt, but their economy is export reliant. They can't afford to lose their gateway to the American dollar. Meanwhile, Trump, he's playing four-dimensional chess with global markets. And if you ask me, Trump's strategy is a winner. He's not just negotiating, he's reshaping the entire game.
What do you think is going to happen with this? I mean, meaning, earlier today I tweeted something out. I said this is really going to come down to one of three things, right? Who needs who more? Okay, and then right there, zoom in if you could, Rob. Who needs who more? Who has more leverage? And then who has more time? Right. So when you look at the two here, back and forth, 84, 104, 125. Who do you think can tolerate this pain long enough until the other has to cave?
It's a tricky question. You're talking about the number one and the number two economies in the world. We're not talking about, say, the US negotiating with the UK or, some other, lesser ranked economy in the world. It's number one and number two. And of course, by some measures, purchasing power parity measures, China could be considered number one in some way. And obviously that's disputed. But so, it's a big thing. This is a big thing. Now, timing is important because had this happened only 10 years ago or 15 years ago, China clearly would have been in a much weaker position, and it would have been, from a U.S. viewpoint, strategically much better to have it done then. And interestingly, if you go back to some of the old interviews that Donald Trump in those days gave, there's one I saw from 1988.
Oprah Winfrey.
Amazing. Yeah. And he's already saying, hey, we got to have some proper tariffs. There's some unfair things going on. We're paying, our products are being, faced with this tariff wall as they're trying to export to other countries. We need to do this. And of course, that would have been, for some countries, a brilliant time, even for the following decades vis-a-vis China, because China was still building up its industrial strength. Now, it's not so obvious. The answer to your question is not so easy because China is now in a very strong position, clearly stronger than 15 years ago or 10 years ago. And also it has other trading partners. The U.S. remains, and this is the strong side from the U.S. viewpoint, and that's what President Trump, of course, is very, very much aware of and is playing on. The U.S. remains the number one desirable market to export to. There's no doubt about that. And of course, that gives the U.S. a strong hand. And that's the whole point of this, way of bringing about trade negotiations.
But yeah, guys, let's get this straight. This isn't just about tariffs. It's about power. Trump is reshaping global trade. He's defending American workers. He's forcing the global elites to the table. And he's proving you don't have to bow to China to survive in the 21st century. This is what economic warfare looks like. And for once, America's not backing down. So what do you think? Will China cave? Will the rest of the world fall in line with Trump's bold strategy? Drop a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts. And if you're sick of globalists shipping our jobs overseas, like this video, hit subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes America first.